What is up, Wolfpack? Today we're going to be covering 100 days of food for $100. You know, it's funny, just 6 months ago, we all remember seeing those videos of the grandmas fighting over rolls of toilet paper. And it's crazy how quickly panic sets in once you see empty shelves. And if you can imagine grandmas willing to throw fisticuffs over a clean bum bum, could you imagine what society would do if all of a sudden the rice shelves were bare, or the meat shelves were bare, or if there was no milk around, or if there was no honey? The amount of panic that would occur would be 10 times more catastrophic than what we saw with the major TP shortage of 2020. You know, it's often said that society is 3 square meals away from falling apart. And with the global supply chain that we have in today's food industry, all it takes is a small, just subset of it to really have it falling apart. And a lot of people aren't talking about this. People are talking about not creating a panic around the coronavirus, but no one's talking about the panic that could be caused with a potential food shortage. For instance, last month alone, Iowa experienced a derecho, which is a 100-year storm. It's the equivalent of like a hurricane, and it wiped out millions of acres of corn, our #1 export of food and also import of food. And this is stuff that's going to have long stream effects that are not just going to be showing up in the shelves maybe weeks, months, if not years from now. And so it's important for you to make sure that when you're looking at all of your preps, it's always fun to think about the knives and the guns and all of that other stuff. But food is never a sexy item, but it's the most critical when you're thinking about your overall preps. Speaking of knives, for those that know, we're going to be giving away a Esee 4, so stick around to the end of the video to find out how you'll be able to win one of these. It is the perfect survival knife. It's awesome, 1095 steel. It's got this great finger choil for bushcrafting, and so we'll be walking you through at the end on how you'll be able to win one of these. So the easiest way when you're thinking about food storage is obviously the freeze-dried. I've got a review. Check out the channel. We've done a review on the Mountain House. These are, incredible. They are designed to last 30 plus years. You buy it, you set it and forget it. All it needs is boiling water. You can literally eat it right out of the bag. These are the ultimate survival foods. I mean, they are designed to last through nuclear winters. In addition to that, you've got the Auguson Farms bucket, which is up here. The Auguson Farm bucket is really designed to, with this particular bucket, what I like about it is it's the 30-day for one person. It's got all of the calories stored out. It's already got a calendar in regards to your food. But this stuff is expensive. This is for 30 days. When I bought these were like $75. I've even bought these on sale for $50. Today, I saw them as high as $300. I think today they're like around $125. And so you can imagine, food more than anything suffers from inflation. It's the first thing to really deal with inflation. We are such a global society that we can get beautiful, ripe avocados that look like they went to prep school straight from Mexico because they're willing to pay less than minimum wage. Whereas if you got those same avocados, let's say from California, they'd be 3, 4, 5 times as much. And so you could imagine what if Mexico all of a sudden decided to stop exporting a lot of their food and their beans, and then all of a sudden, because they're worried about their own food shortage, then all of a sudden we would be worried about it. It's a domino effect, and so it's important for you to really have the food in your pantry ready to go, because there's been studies that say that most people won't survive 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 months definitely if they couldn't go to the grocery store every few days or get their Instacart delivery. And so you could avoid all that madness and avoid surrounding yourself with a Black Friday level pandemonium at the local grocery store by just keeping those foods prepped and ready to go. And so we're going to walk through that in today's video and just help you get squared away and really figure out what to prioritize. And in fact, check the description. I actually have a spreadsheet that you can just click the link and you can download the spreadsheet. It's free. You can actually get the full list of what you need depending on if you wanted to prep for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And this is like financial prepping. It's, like let's start with a $100 emergency fund and eventually $1,000 emergency fund, eventually get to 3 months, 6 months. You do it a little bit at a time and all of a sudden you've got more than a year stocked away, ready to go. So we're going to walk through a couple of these things and actually layer in exactly what you need to be focusing on. So the first thing that I would focus on is the staples of almost every third world country: rice and beans. I mean, this is the staple of almost every third world country for a reason. When you combine rice and beans, you get your carbs, you get your fats, you get your proteins. And so when you're thinking about your grains, the rice and beans, you can do the jasmine rices, you can do the basmati rices. Any white rice will do. You do not want to go with brown rice because the oils in it will make it go rancid. And white rice is one of those foods that's actually indispensable. It actually will survive 10, 20, 30 plus years without needing to worry about it going bad, particularly if you're able to store it in a food grade bucket, or really not even a food grade bucket. You can just store it in a bucket to avoid it being exposed to sunlight and particularly rodents. And so if you really wanted to, you could take the bags of rice. This one's luckily, it's packaged in the plastic. Pour it out and pour it in a Mylar bag, and I'll put some links to what those are. To be honest, I don't really do that. I use the freeze-dried food for my long-term storage, and then this is my working food. That's one thing that I've noticed is that when I was buying food just to store, it was never getting used. And so the wife and I, we actually just focus on foods that we're going to eat, and so that way we can cycle through our pantry. And so instead of buying food for just the next 2 weeks, we're buying a little bit extra to the point where we're having more than a couple of months, if not over a year worth of food in certain categories. And we're actually going through it based on a first in, last out basis. Is that right? Yes, I think that's correct. So we basically are cycling through the oldest food, so that way we're always keeping it stocked and fresh. And so with rice, I mean, let's actually walk through pricing. We talked about 100 days of food for $100. It really depends on the quality you're going for. I remember when I was working minimum wage, my 100 days of food was the Taco Bell dollar menu. And so, I had to be a lot more tight with my money. I had to be a lot more just stringent and rigid. Now, luckily we're able to shop organic. We're able to buy better quality foods. But if you're monitoring sales, if you're looking at coupons, if you're buying the right brands, you can end up getting a lot of these things for even cheaper than what I'm sharing here. A perfect example of that is the salt. Salt is one of the greatest goods. It's a great barter good. In fact, if you look at the old Roman soldiers, they used to be paid in salt. That's how valuable this was. And this is a $5 of Himalayan pink salt. It's got a lot of the nutrients and minerals that you're looking for, so you don't even need extra vitamins. This is $5. Now, for the same $5, you can get 25 pounds of Morton salt. And so you can see here the difference in quality depending on the pricing. And so I'm going to walk you through just some variability in pricing. And so for rice, I mean, rice is anywhere from, you can get rice as cheap as 40 cents a pound. I've seen it even on sale as cheap as 25 cents a pound or up to $1, $2 per pound, depending on the quality. And so what you're going to want is 100 pounds of grains, which I know sounds crazy, but if you get those 2 50-pound bag of rice, that'll help cover you for those 3 months. And so 2 50-pound bags, those giant bags you can do a combination of rice. You could do pasta if you wanted to. So we've got some pasta here. Pasta sometimes is less than $1 per pound. I mean, this is a 1 pound box. This was, less than $1. The ramens. So you've got your carbs stocked up and ready to go. And so between the rices, oats, anything that's like the actual carb component, you could pick up for 25 cents, $1. And so what you want is 100 pounds of that stuff. And so if you could try to keep that under $40, and you'll have one of your key staples. And what you want to do is supplement that with your beans. And this is representative of beans. This particular bean is $3 a pound, but you can get beans as cheap as 40 cents a pound. You can get beans sometimes 50 cents a pound on sale. And so what you want is 30 pounds of beans. You want about 30 pounds of beans for those scenarios. And you want to be able to stock that up. And so with 30 pounds of beans and 100 pounds of grains, you will have what you need for 100 days of food. So rice, beans, those are your staples. The very next thing you want to worry about are your meats. And I was actually shocked when I was looking up the research. I did a lot of research on this. Give me a thumbs up because I spent multiple hours researching this thing. So if you're learning something, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. So you actually don't need that much food for 100 days, that much meat for 100 days. What the experts say is you really only need 6 pounds of food, of meats for 100 days of food. And so what you could do a combination of these cans. So these are like canned salmon. You want to avoid tuna, too much tuna. Isn't that from a movie, Too Much Tuna? No, that's from Comedy Central. That's from Nick Kroll. So you don't want too much tuna because with too much tuna, you're going to get mercury poisoning. And so go with salmon. Sardines are super cheap, less than $1 per can. This natural chicken breast. So this canned chicken breast is, I believe this was $20 for 6 pounds. And this is really all you need. 20 pounds for 100 days of meats. And so you've got your meats covered and you don't need to worry about that anymore. The next thing you want to worry about are your sweeteners. So the sweeteners include honeys and sugars. The great thing about white sugar and honey, this stuff lasts forever. It never goes bad. There are stories of people eating honey from the Egyptian tombs that are thousands of years old and it was still edible. I don't know how tasty, but at least it was edible. And you want to talk about cheap, quick calories. Stock up on this stuff. It doesn't go bad. You might as well, it's the equivalent of money in the bank. And you can barter this, you can put this in your rice, you can put this in your coffee, in your tea. And so the amount of extra calories, the quick calories that you get from honeys and sugars, this is as important as your salts. So the salts and the sugars are really what will help you take you to that next level. This 5 pound was less than $10. This Kirkland brand 5 pounds of honey. What you're going to want is about 15 pounds of honey, between 15 pounds of sweeteners between your bags of sugar, and you can get white sugar for super cheap, $1 a pound, sometimes even less. You can go to local honey dealers and get it in bulk, just giant buckets of honey. Or even better, if you wanted to start a honey farm in your backyard, it's one of the easiest things to grow in even just a 1/4 acre of food. I'll actually leave a description in the description, a book called Homesteading on a 1/4 acre, and how you'll be able to feed a family of 4 even with just a 1/4 acre of land. And so you can have your honey all stocked up and ready to go. The next thing you want to worry about are your fats. And one of my favorite fats, obviously beyond peanut butter and almond butter, is coconut oil. And the reason I like coconut oil is you can put this in your coffee in the morning to get some healthy fats. You could put this, you can cook with this. You can mix it with rice and make an incredible coconut rice. Hell, you could even use this as a moisturizer. And so, this, let me check the pricing on this. What is this? This was like almost 2.5 pounds. This was $10. And so you've got, more than enough cooking oils and just fats in order to be able to cook and to get the fats that are necessary. And so, you've got the rice, you've got the beans, you've got your meats, you've got your sweeteners, you've got your salts, you've got your fats. You're starting to build a very square meal, and every day you're not going to have to worry about not having enough calories. In a shit hits the fan situation, in a scenario where things are not great, there's going to be a lot of work to do around the house. You're going to be having to set up your perimeter defenses. You're going to have to be doing a lot of just manual labor around the house, and you want to make sure that you're not just getting the bare minimum of calories and losing weight because of all of the extra manual labor. You want to make sure that you are far exceeding the amount of daily calories, because number one, it's going to be a lot more stressful. Number two, there's going to be a lot more manual work. And then number three, you want to make sure that you're maximizing the amount of energy that you have in case, you did need to, protect yourself. What good is prepping all of this stuff if all it takes is someone to come and with force be able to take it away from you? Milks. So milks are probably one of the hardest. So as you notice, a lot of the foods that I've picked are foods that don't go bad. They're canned, or they're rice where they don't go rancid, or it's very shelf stable. And the problem with milks is, except for dry powdered milk, and to be honest, and I don't know if it's because of the coronavirus, but finding economic dry powdered milk has been difficult for me. And so what I would recommend instead is protein powder. And I remember when I used to buy the super cheap giant bulk packs of just garbage foreign protein. Luckily, I'm in a better financial situation, and so I can afford the nice this protein. By the way, if you want, this is the tastiest protein, the chocolate mocha, incredible. This, if you just get the vanilla, can function, number one, to get you additional protein above and beyond your meats. But then number two, it can be as a milk substitute. So in the morning, you can give it a quick nuke and put in some coffee. And coffee, while not essential, is actually probably one of the most important things to save. Number one, to create a sense of normalcy in those grid down scenarios. But number two, it is an incredible bartering item. And if you take a look at a lot of places where things really fell apart, particularly in West Africa, one of the things that really, people talk about ammo and liquor as being potential bartering items. When you look at the scenarios where that actually happened, nobody was bartering ammo because they didn't want to arm their enemy, and nobody was bartering liquor because actually everybody stopped all of their vices. You can even take a look at what's happening right now with the coronavirus. Cigarette sales are at the bottom because people are just too scared. They're not trying to smoke. They're not trying to drink, and so they actually, in those areas, alcohol stopped being as useful. But what was useful was coffee and tea. And tea bags are so cheap. I think you get for $8 100 bags of tea, and so you can stock up on that stuff now, and you don't need to worry about. Not number one, it's great, after you get a little bit of caffeine, which will help keep the energy up and help keep you awake at night. But then number two, it's a great just bartering item. And so this is, just a great way to, just create that sense of normalcy. We talked about beans. You want to have a combination of dry beans as well as your canned beans. We eat a lot of refried beans. Mexican food is one of my favorite meals. And so we do a lot of refried beans around the house. And so we have, dozens of these cans lying around the house. And so we're able to just crack them open. We're not just stocking up to stock up. This is stuff we use on a daily basis. And so beans are a great way to get your proteins. I mean, you can take a look at this. I mean, you're getting 8 grams of protein here. You got 11 grams of protein in those beans. Chickpeas are some of the most complete proteins. And so, you want to create a variety. You don't want to just have, 100 pounds of white rice. You're going to eat it. If you're hungry, you're going to eat it. But why not create a little bit of variety? And more importantly, be able to create a little bit of variety in your daily meals and be able to go through all those things. Vitamins. I think vitamins are very underlooked. In a high stress situation, you want to keep your immunity up. The last thing you want to do is be on your ass and sick while the world's falling apart. And so making sure you're taking your daily vitamins before shit hits the fan, and particularly after. And so stocking up on a handful of vitamins. I get the gummies because hey, it's they're fun, but you can get super cheap vitamins from Kirkland, from Costco, from Sam's Club, wherever that may be. And so we're kind of covering a lot of the different places where you're able to get the 100 days of food. Just as a quick recap, you want 100 pounds of grains. And so that could be 50 pounds of rice and 50 pounds of pasta, or 50 pounds of rice and 25 pounds of pasta and 25 pounds of oats. You want at least 6 pounds of meat. If you didn't want to go with the canned meat and you feel comfortable with your freezer selection, you could even go with like chicken thighs, which are sometimes you can get them as cheap as 48 cents a pound. I've seen them on sale. And then you can make soup stocks, and you could make you could use the bone marrow inside of them. So you could do a whole bunch of other things. But if you wanted to just do canned meat, you could totally do that. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your fats. If you want to do peanut butters, those giant Jiffy peanut butter is a great way. But I like the coconut oil. It's a great way to get your cooking fats as well as your actual fats if need be. You've got your salts that are taken care of. I didn't put veggies in here, and I think that's probably a miss. The only problem with veggies is they're very difficult to keep. You could do canned veggies, although as a family, I'll be honest, we don't eat a lot of canned veggies. We do personally keep frozen veggies, but if shit hits the fan and we're grid down, while I do have generators, I don't know how long I'll be able to run them. And I think veggies is probably the one area that I've missed. And so what I actually do is I have some Auguson Farms freeze-dried spinach, and some other veggies. And so that's how I get my veggies. But that's another thing you can do. You've got the milk situation. I use protein powder, but you could do powdered milk if you wanted to, although I do find that to be a little bit of a little expensive. And then your sweeteners, we talked about honey, salt, sugar, talked about vitamins. The last component, we don't really talk about this, is water. Water is the most critical, and they recommend 1 gallon per person per day. And well, I don't think it's safe to store 100 gallons. I don't think it's economical. I don't think it's even feasible for most people to store 100 gallons of water. Getting a water filter, this is one of my favorites, is the Be Free. Even better would be the Berkey filters. We have one in our kitchen, so that way you can store and filter dozens, if not hundreds of gallons, if not thousands of gallons. Actually, that thing is rated for thousands of gallons, is the Berkey water filter. But this one is the Katadyn Be Free. What I like about this is you can squeeze this into a larger canister, and it'll also even self-test. If you blow here and you can't blow any air in here, that means the filter is still good. And so this is a great way to just scoop up water and have enough water to be able to help yourself. And so that way you can have your 100 gallons of water if you have a nearby water source with just one filter. And so you're able to take care of that. And so, with all of these things, you've basically got well over 100 days of food ready to go, stocked away, and you won't, if there is ever a food shortage, you won't have to worry about it because you'll be taken care of. Stick around because we're gonna be giving this away in just a few moments. So we talked a little bit about the spreadsheet. So I know that we covered a lot. So if you wanted to, go click in the link in the description. You'll be able to download the spreadsheet. Just make a copy, and you'll be able to enter in, the number of family members in your house, the number of kids in your house, and it'll actually do the full calculation for you in terms of how much you should be stocking up in all of the different categories. And what I would recommend, start small. It doesn't need to be overwhelming. Start with 1 week of extra food, then go to 2 weeks, then go to 1 month, then go to 3 months, and slowly build up over time. The last thing you want is to have, let's say 3 months worth of ammo and zero food. You want to make sure that your preps are solid across all of your different categories. And so that's why I created this spreadsheet, so you can click down, and I hope it helps you out. So even beyond that, let's actually walk through how can you make maybe food evergreen. We talked about in my other video, the 10 survival skills that you need to learn is hunting. If you've never woken up at 4 in the morning and trudged out to go hunting for duck or dove or deer or turkey, you know how difficult it is. And so if you can start to develop some of those skills now, even in the great ammo shortage of 2020, buckshot is still very readily available. You can get buckshot, you can get birdshot. You can still find this stuff out there, and I would recommend stocking up on as much ammo as you can, mainly because if you didn't have this food, you can go out and get your food. And so there's different things that you could do. Get yourself a slingshot, with a little rock, a little pebble. You'll be able to take out some small game, whether it's a rabbit or a squirrel. Start getting good at fishing. I talked about this in my bushcraft. This is a bushcrafting thing that I'm working on. This is a hobo reel. We'll be able to put some fishing monofilament line here, and you'll be able to go and cast this out. And in here, you'll be able to store all your hooks. But if you didn't, you could just do a hand reel. And so, with this simple hand reel and some actual grub and some fishing hooks, you'll be able to go out there and actually catch as many fish as you want if you're close to a stream. And so start practicing now. Start to develop these skills so that way you can do it even before you need to do it. In many places, you can't get firearms, but could you get BB guns? I think everyone, even if you do have firearms, should get an air pellet or a BB gun, particularly because, number one, it's way quiet. It's even quieter than a 22, even quieter than a silenced 22. And so the next thing is the ammo is super cheap. I mean, look, you get 250 pellets in this very small container. And so you'll be able to take out small game without damaging a lot of the meat. And it's a lot more accurate than, let's say, even a slingshot. And so now you'll be able to, go out there and take down small game, maybe, a duck at a nearby pond. And so you can have evergreen meat, depending on your skills. Maybe even getting into a little bit of trapping. This is a rat snare trap, from Tomcat. And so you can pop this open, and this thing is you can screw this down on, let's say, a fence post and put a little bit of peanut butter on there, and wait for a squirrel to come by, and there you go. You can wake up to a nice hearty stew. So I know it's crazy, but it's like, why not pick these things up? If it's part of your lifestyle, if you're already hunting anyway, these are things that, if you're doing this anyway, why not scoop this up? If you've got rodents around your house, why not pick up a rat trap? And that way you have a dual purpose. Number one, the ability to passively trap game if needed. But then number two, to be able to take care of pests and rodents. The last thing is silver. Silver, if you've ever read any of Furfall's books, so Furfall is a great person in the prepper community, particularly because he dealt with massive inflation in Argentina, and so you can get a firsthand account of what it's like in a country that is falling apart, in a shit hits the fan scenario. And in the book, he talked about how silver, each 1 ounce silver coin, you could pick these. We were picking these up for $12 in March. Now they're almost $40. And so if you could pick these up on the cheap, each one of these is the equivalent of about 1 month worth of food. And so if you wanted to, with 3 months of food, you could just pick up 3 coins and have 3 months of food, assuming we have the same transferability rates in our scenario. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this helped you sort of just give you some ideas in terms of how you wanted to stock up on your foods. If you really wanted to keep it simple, you're like, look, this is just way too much. There's a lot going on here. Then what I would recommend, potentially just keep it simple and go with the Auguson food storage bucket. Now, while it's not 100 days of food, for what I believe right now, I think they're selling for just a little over $100. You get up to 45 days of food. And the reason it's up to 45 days of food is this is designed for one person for 30 days. And you can see here, they've got, oatmeal, they've got some mashed potatoes, they've got cheesy broccoli rice, creamy potato soup, macaroni and cheese, creamy chicken flavored rice, hearty vegetable chicken soup, banana chips, and low-fat milk alternative. And so you've got a lot of the stuff here. They've designed this so that way you can get 1,800 calories per day and 46 grams of protein per day for up to 30 days. And so they've already done the math on this. And so you'll be able to kind of go in there and be able to just use this. For $100, you'll be able to get 30 days of food. But they also give you a much more limited calendar and menu inside of it. And what the calendar inside will allow you to do is actually ration this out to up to 45 days if needed. And so for $100, you can get up to 45 days of food. Now, granted, you definitely need to supplement this with, let's say, other stuff in your pantry. But at least, number one, this bucket is designed to last. It says 25-year shelf life. I think this will last even more than potentially up to 30 years if you keep this in a cool, dry place. And so this makes it, super easy. You don't need to worry about everything else on the table. You can just be like, look, I just want to buy one thing, store it in my closet, and never have to worry about food again. And so you buy one of these buckets for each of your family member for each month that you want to have stocked up. And hey, you don't have to do this all at once. Start with one bucket, and then you could split it. So now you've got 2 weeks of food for 2 people. And then or 1 week of food for a family of 4. And then, maybe next month you buy another bucket. Now you guys are, incrementally going up, and you're not needing to do it all at once. This is, people talk about like, hey, like you've got an emergency fund. You should also be thinking about your food emergency fund. And this is a great way to think about that. And, I've told people that, now with the coronavirus, with potential food shortages, we are kind of in an emergency. And so this is the time for you to feel free to reach in a little bit into your emergency fund and use this stuff to be able to stock up, because this is probably more valuable than money. We talk about inflation, where the money in your emergency fund is going down. If we were in that scenario, food goes up. And so this is the equivalent of an investment. And so if you were able to spend the money now, you could pick it up while it's cheap, rather than when this bucket, shot up to $300 plus. So that's way cheaper than, let's say, the Mountain House that is like around $10 a meal. All right, well, I hope this was helpful. So with that, let's give away the Esee knife. And so walking you through how we're going to win this. So we're going to be giving away a brand new Esee knife. I mean, it is the perfect survival knife to one lucky subscriber. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video, on any video. We've already handed out 5 knives. Really looking forward to sending out more of these. And so once we hit 4,000 subscribers, we will be giving this amazing survival knife. It's a knife you can take to the end of the world. It is a true heirloom piece to one lucky subscriber. All you got to do is leave a comment below, and that'll instantly enter you. What I would also recommend you do is turn on notifications. You know, I had to track down Toby in order to get him his knife. And so you make sure you don't want to miss out on the knife itself. And so turn on the notifications so you're the first one to be alerted on when we give this away and when we hit 4,000 subscribers. It should be in the next week to 2 weeks. And so you don't want to be lost and not see that you've actually won this knife. The last giveaway, we only had 29 comments on the video. And so Kristen was the one who won the last one. And so with only 29 comments, she was the lucky subscriber that won this knife. And so we're really looking forward to sending that out. If you found this video helpful, I spent a few hours making it. Give me a thumbs up. It really helps us out with the algorithm. It really helps us out growing. And I hope this helps you and your family stay protected. And you know, worst case scenario, you just end up using the food. You know, it's not like it's going to go bad. A lot of these foods end up lasting 10, 20, 30 plus years if you're properly storing it. And so it's not like it's a waste of money. You'll be able to spend this money and you'll be able to get it back by just, you know, buying less in your next grocery run. So I hope this was helpful. Stay safe, everyone. Cheers. Looking forward to the next one.